Morning began like any other in Washington, but it quickly turned into a firestorm that shook political circles across the nation. Karoline Leavitt, a rising figure who had spent weeks making sharp comments against her rivals, walked into what she thought would be another routine media appearance. Instead, she was blindsided. In the middle of her scheduled press briefing, reporters began buzzing with breaking alerts on their phones. News outlets everywhere were flashing the same headline: Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett files $100 million legal suit against Karoline Leavitt. The room fell into stunned silence. Cameras pivoted, reporters raised their microphones higher, and the confident tone in Leavitt's voice collapsed into stammering disbelief. The lawsuit, filed just hours earlier, alleged a series of damaging actions that Crockett's legal team claimed had crossed the line from political banter into outright defamation and misconduct. The figure, $100 million, wasn't just large, it was historic. This was no warning shot, this was a political bombshell designed to make headlines and demand accountability. Leavitt tried to steady herself, insisting it was political theater, but the evidence presented in the official documents was already circulating online. Clips of her past remarks, side by side with Crockett's rebuttals, were trending within minutes. Commentators called it the lawsuit of the decade. Social media feeds exploded with hashtags, memes, and instant analysis. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett addressed the press on the steps of the courthouse with striking composure. "This isn't about silencing anyone," she said firmly. "This is about truth, accountability, and the responsibility every public figure has when they take the stage. Words have power, and reckless words carry consequences." The statement hit hard. Crockett didn't raise her voice or deliver personal jabs, she let the weight of her lawsuit speak for itself. Analysts noted her calm confidence contrasted sharply with Leavitt's visible panic. In just a matter of hours, the narrative had flipped. What began as another attack on Crockett ended with Leavitt portrayed as reckless and unprepared for the fallout. The legal battle ahead promises to be long, public, and brutal. Experts predict it could reshape how political figures handle rhetoric in an age where every word is amplified across millions of screens. But for now, one thing was clear: Karoline Leavitt had been hit with a $100 million shockwave, and Jasmine Crockett stood at the center of the storm, unmoved and unshaken. Within hours of the legal filing, Washington was buzzing like a hive on fire. Journalists camped outside the courthouse, pundits debated endlessly on television, and political allies on both sides scrambled to position themselves. Karoline Leavitt retreated behind closed doors, but not before giving a hastily prepared statement. Her words were defensive, shaky, and filled with accusations that Jasmine Crockett was weaponizing the legal system. Yet, the delivery only fueled speculation that Leavitt had been caught off guard. Behind the scenes, her advisors were scrambling. Emails leaked to the press revealed frantic attempts to assemble a legal defense team, with some of the nation's top attorneys already being approached. The cost of fighting back would be enormous, both financially and politically. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett appeared completely unfazed. That evening, she sat for a live interview where she calmly explained her reasoning. "This isn't personal," she said. "It's about setting a precedent. Public figures can't just say anything without accountability. If they think the truth is optional, they're mistaken." The clip of her interview went viral, racking up millions of views overnight. Supporters praised her courage, while critics warned this lawsuit could open a dangerous new chapter in political warfare. But one detail stood out above all: Crockett's legal team claimed to have more evidence, material that had not yet been made public. The mere suggestion of hidden proof sent shockwaves through political circles, leaving Leavitt and her camp bracing for what might come next. The balance of power had shifted dramatically. What once seemed like just another war of words now looked like a showdown that could alter careers, reputations, and maybe even the rules of political engagement itself. The nation woke up the next morning to a headline that made the story even bigger: Crockett's team claims explosive proof against Leavitt. Speculation spread like wildfire. What evidence could be so powerful that it justified a $100 million lawsuit? Some whispered about private recordings. Others hinted at leaked documents. No one knew for certain, but the promise of hidden proof was enough to dominate every political conversation in America. Karoline Leavitt's camp went into crisis mode. Advisors urged her to hold a press conference to control the narrative, but her hesitation was obvious. Every time she appeared before cameras now, her words seemed to backfire. Instead of taking control, she looked rattled, as if she knew what might be coming. On the other side, Jasmine Crockett doubled down. She didn't reveal the evidence outright, but she let the tension build. The truth, she said in a brief statement, always has a way of coming out. And when it does, the public will understand why this action was necessary. Cable news aired the clip on repeat. Social media erupted with theories. Hashtags trended worldwide. And in every corner of Washington, politicians whispered about the possibility that Leavitt had finally gone too far, and that Crockett had the receipts to prove it. The suspense grew unbearable. Everyone wanted to know, what exactly was in Crockett's hands. Late in the evening, the calm shattered. A mysterious file began circulating online, shared by anonymous accounts and quickly picked up by independent journalists. The document appeared to show internal communications from Karoline Leavitt's own circle, messages that directly contradicted her public statements. Within minutes, the leak was everywhere. Screenshots dominated news feeds, commentators dissected every line, and hashtags calling it Leavitt Leaks shot to the top of trending lists. The alleged messages revealed a troubling picture: conversations where Leavitt's team openly strategized about how to twist facts, amplify false narratives, and personally target Crockett in ways that went beyond political rivalry. Karoline Leavitt's camp immediately called the leaks fabricated, but the damage was already done. Reporters pressed her for answers, demanding she release the original communications to prove her innocence. Her refusal only fueled the fire. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett remained silent, refusing to confirm or deny whether the leaks were part of her legal evidence. The silence was calculated, letting the public connect the dots on their own. By morning, the story had exploded worldwide. News anchors called it the most damaging political leak of the year. Analysts warned that if these documents were authenticated in court, Leavitt's career could be facing an irreversible collapse. The war had officially escalated, and now, Leavitt was not just fighting Crockett in the courtroom, but the entire weight of public opinion outside it. Karoline Leavitt couldn't hide forever. Under immense pressure from both her allies and critics, she stepped up to the podium in front of a packed press corps. Flashing cameras, buzzing microphones, and a sea of skeptical faces awaited her. From the start, the tension was obvious. Her voice was steady at first, but her eyes darted nervously as she read from prepared notes. She called the lawsuit an outrageous stunt and claimed the leaked documents were manufactured lies designed to destroy me. But the reporters weren't buying it. One after another, they fired questions. Will you release the original emails to prove they're fake? Why do these leaks match statements you made on television? Are you prepared to fight this in court with full transparency? Each question seemed to knock her further off balance. At one point, visibly frustrated, she snapped back, "This is nothing but a smear campaign, and I will not be silenced." The outburst sent the room into chaos. Some reporters shouted follow-ups, while others exchanged knowing glances. Clips of the press conference spread instantly. Commentators called it a disaster. The viral moments weren't her denials, it was her anger, her defensiveness, and her refusal to provide proof. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett remained calm, watching the storm from a distance. Later that night, she issued only one simple response on social media: truth doesn't need theatrics. It only needs time. The contrast was glaring, and the public noticed. The suspense ended abruptly the next morning. Jasmine Crockett's legal team held a short but powerful press briefing outside the courthouse. With reporters crowded shoulder to shoulder, Crockett's lead attorney stepped up to the microphone and dropped the words that sent shockwaves through Washington. "We can confirm the leaked documents are authentic, and they are only a fraction of the evidence we will be presenting in court." Gasps rippled through the crowd of journalists. Questions flew instantly, but the attorney gave no further details. Instead, he promised that full disclosure would come during the trial. The confirmation hit Karoline Leavitt's camp like a lightning strike. Overnight, her press conference, already labeled a disaster, now looked like a public implosion. Clips of her calling the leaks fake were replayed on every news network alongside Crockett's team confirming they were real. The contrast was devastating. Political analysts warned that the lawsuit was no longer just a legal battle, it was a credibility crisis. Allies began distancing themselves, some issuing carefully worded statements, while others stayed silent altogether. Behind the scenes, donors reportedly started pulling back, worried about being tied to a sinking ship. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett herself remained poised. She made no gloating remarks, no fiery speeches. Instead, she posted one calm message online: accountability is not optional. That single line spread across every platform, quoted by journalists, activists, and even celebrities. The tide of public opinion was shifting rapidly, and Leavitt's position had never looked weaker. By the end of the week, the walls around Karoline Leavitt began to crumble. What had started as whispers in backrooms soon turned into loud defections. Members of her own inner circle, the very aides and advisors who once defended her at every turn, started breaking away. The first blow came when a former staffer appeared on a primetime news program with a simple but devastating statement: "I can't lie for her anymore." The staffer claimed to have witnessed conversations that aligned perfectly with the leaked documents and hinted that even more damaging information was still hidden. Within 24 hours, 2 more insiders signaled their cooperation with investigators. One of them, a communications aide, allegedly turned over email chains that could prove Leavitt knowingly pushed misinformation. The betrayal spread panic inside her camp. Leavitt, furious, reportedly accused her team of cowardice and disloyalty. But sources close to her admitted she was running out of options, and allies. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett stayed silent, letting Leavitt's unraveling play out on its own. The strategy worked perfectly. Headlines screamed about the mass exodus from Leavitt's circle, while Crockett's name was consistently paired with words like steady, calm, and unshaken. For the first time, even Leavitt's strongest supporters were asking the question out loud: could this lawsuit actually end her career? The political battlefield was no longer about winning debates or trading soundbites. It had become a survival fight, and Karoline Leavitt was bleeding allies by the day. The drama reached a new peak when an unexpected figure broke their silence: Karoline Leavitt's former chief of staff. Once considered her most loyal ally, this person had worked side by side with her for years, managing strategy, messaging, and every detail of her political rise. Now, standing before flashing cameras, they delivered a statement that shook Washington. "I can no longer remain silent. I have first-hand knowledge of the actions and strategies at the center of this case, and I am prepared to testify under oath." The announcement hit like a thunderclap. Reporters scrambled to confirm the details, while insiders whispered that this testimony could be the turning point, the moment that transformed Crockett's lawsuit from a strong case into an unstoppable one. Leavitt's reaction was immediate and furious. In a frantic social media post, she called her former chief of staff a traitor and insisted they were manufacturing lies to save themselves. But the post backfired, spreading widely as proof of desperation. Meanwhile, Crockett's team quietly welcomed the witness. No dramatic speeches, no victory lap, just a short message from Crockett herself: when truth speaks, it speaks loudly. The public was riveted. News networks replayed the witness's words on a loop, analysts predicted a devastating blow in court, and Leavitt's isolation deepened. What once looked like political theater was now shaping into a legal avalanche, with her former allies providing the shovels. And in the background, rumors swirled of even more insiders preparing to flip before the trial began. The courthouse was packed, every seat filled with reporters, cameras, and political observers waiting for the drama to unfold. It was the first official hearing in Jasmine Crockett's $100 million lawsuit against Karoline Leavitt, and the atmosphere felt more like a national event than a legal proceeding. Leavitt entered the courtroom flanked by her attorneys, her expression tense and her shoulders stiff. The whispers followed her every step. Across the aisle, Jasmine Crockett sat calmly with her legal team, projecting the same composure she had shown since the very beginning. The judge wasted no time. After procedural matters were handled, Crockett's attorneys requested to present a limited preview of their evidence. The room fell silent. Everyone knew this moment could set the tone for the entire case. When the first exhibit appeared on the screen, a verified email thread directly linking Leavitt to the leak strategy documents, gasps echoed through the chamber. The emails didn't just reference Crockett by name, they outlined methods to discredit her with knowingly false claims. Leavitt's lawyers immediately objected, calling it context taken out of proportion. But the damage was done. Reporters scribbled furiously, headlines practically writing themselves, "Crockett's evidence stuns court." Even more shocking, Crockett's team revealed that this was only the beginning. They had organized dozens of files, recordings, and testimonies ready to roll out as the trial advanced. Leavitt avoided reporters as she left the courthouse, but cameras caught her visibly shaken. In contrast, Crockett walked out confidently, delivering only one line to the press: "This is about accountability, and we've only just started." The public had seen the first glimpse of what was to come, and it left Leavitt's defense in tatters. Just days after the first hearing, the case erupted again, this time outside the courtroom. Late one evening, a major news network released an audio recording allegedly tied to Karoline Leavitt's inner circle. In the clip, a voice that sounded unmistakably like Leavitt's could be heard strategizing with advisors. The words were chilling in their clarity: "It doesn't matter if it's true. If it sticks, Crockett's done. That's all we need." The recording spread like wildfire. Within minutes, it was trending across every platform, replayed endlessly on television, and dissected by analysts line by line. The reaction was immediate: outrage from the public, stunned silence from her remaining allies, and mounting calls for accountability. Leavitt's camp rushed to respond, claiming the tape was edited and taken out of context. But the denial rang hollow. Experts confirmed the voice was authentic, and several insiders suggested the leak came from someone once closest to her, possibly the very witness who had already stepped forward. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett issued a calm statement: "The truth continues to reveal itself. We warned there was more, and now the public sees why this case matters." The leak became a political earthquake. Talk shows debated whether Leavitt could even survive the trial, while donors and supporters began cutting ties altogether. Even some members of her own party began to publicly distance themselves, calling the recording indefensible. What had started as a lawsuit was now spiraling into a full-blown political collapse. And the trial hadn't even truly begun. Cornered by leaks, witnesses, and mounting public outrage, Karoline Leavitt tried to flip the script. In a surprise move, her legal team announced that she was filing a countersuit against Jasmine Crockett, accusing her of character assassination and political persecution. The announcement was meant to look bold, but it landed with a thud. Reporters immediately pressed for details. What evidence did Leavitt have? What proof could justify such a claim? Her lawyers offered none, only vague promises that the truth would come out. The media response was brutal. Headlines blasted the move as a panic play and a legal stunt. Analysts warned that countersuits without strong evidence rarely survived in court, and that this one looked more like a smokescreen than a serious challenge. But the real disaster came hours later. Crockett's legal team swiftly responded, filing a motion to dismiss the countersuit while reminding the court, and the public, that Leavitt was already facing authenticated documents, corroborated witnesses, and now a damning recording. The contrast was devastating. Crockett's case looked airtight. Leavitt's countersuit looked flimsy, almost desperate. Commentators on every network said the same thing: she's running out of moves. Even worse, the attempt to turn the tables only drew more attention to the original scandal. The recording was replayed on loop, the leaked emails resurfaced, and Crockett's calm one-liners kept dominating the headlines. By nightfall, Leavitt's counterattack had collapsed under its own weight, leaving her weaker than ever, while Crockett's steady strategy looked unstoppable. As if the leaked documents and recordings weren't enough, Jasmine Crockett's legal team unleashed yet another blow. In newly filed court papers, they revealed evidence of financial irregularities tied to Karoline Leavitt's inner circle. According to investigators, a series of payments had been traced to shell accounts allegedly used to fund media campaigns targeting Crockett. The transactions, quietly routed through consulting firms, matched perfectly with the timeline of the smear efforts. The revelation stunned Washington. It wasn't just about words anymore, now there was money on the line. Analysts warned that if the paper trail held up, the case could expand beyond defamation into potential violations of campaign finance laws. Leavitt's team tried to dismiss the findings as routine expenses, but reporters quickly tore that argument apart. Why, they asked, were the payments hidden under vague categories like logistics and outreach? Why did they lead back to entities with no clear business operations? The story dominated every headline, money trail exposed in Leavitt case. Talk shows framed it as the moment the scandal crossed from political embarrassment into legal jeopardy. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett's only response was a single sentence delivered outside the courthouse: "Follow the money, and you'll always find the truth." The phrase instantly went viral, plastered across social media and echoed by news anchors nationwide. Support for Crockett swelled as the perception grew that her lawsuit was more than a defense of her reputation, it was a crusade for accountability. For Karoline Leavitt, however, the money trail was a nightmare she couldn't outrun. And it was about to make her situation far worse. The scandal reached an entirely new level when federal authorities officially entered the picture. Reports confirmed that the FBI, along with federal prosecutors, had opened an inquiry into the financial evidence uncovered by Jasmine Crockett's legal team. The news broke live on air, with anchors cutting into programming to announce, federal investigators are now examining possible campaign finance violations tied to Karoline Leavitt's inner circle. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Commentators who had once framed the case as political theater now described it as a national scandal. Legal experts explained that civil lawsuits could be damaging, but federal investigations were on a different scale entirely,